Well, good evening, everybody. WarSpirit here. I'm gonna be. Oh, there we go.
What's that?
I'm
Hello,
gonna be the
everybody.
host, and we got. There's John. What's up, John?
Nothing much, just enjoying time with my family. I'm actually doing the show from my porch. As you can tell from the intro sequence, War Spirit is hosting tonight, everybody. It's his first time, so if there's technical difficulties,
Yeah,
give
we're
him a fair
sorry.
shake. He's trying.
Nah, John got me all hooked up. Came by the house here, so we should be a-okay for the most part.
hmm Um, and so we've got quite a bit to talk about. I mean, there's just been, I don't know, a lot of updates in the whole. Yeah, sorry. So, how do I sound now? Is I kind of sounding quiet?
Uh, you
Probably
s-
sound a bit crispier now.
you sounded fine before. You sound a little bit more crisp now,
Yeah.
but you're good.
Well, yeah. That's what I figured. The mic's usually pretty good, but
Yeah.
anyways, so I know we had some things to talk about. Like I was saying, we've had some developments in the Pizzagate thing, and in the midst of this Pizzagate thing, I think it's absolutely insane mostly how like say Netflix and these other industries like Amazon Prime right now have released very controversial pieces of media. And I know that we maybe didn't add that in the show notes, but on Amazon Prime there's a show that has come out that's called Understanding, like it's called like Understanding the Pedophile or something like that.
Oh wow, I didn't know that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some kind of pity party for creeps. And of course, we had the cuties on Netflix, which got noticed because I think a lot more people have Netflix, or just
Yeah, I was
maybe a
actually
lot more
looking.
sane people on Netflix. I'm not really sure, but
I was actually
not
looking at
not that
the
that's an ad.
petition just a few minutes ago, and it's up to like over 200,000.
And that's grand. And
Yeah.
so that's a good thing. Like so, but the problem with change.org is I was kind of reading into it because I remember somebody made like a change.org petition against the protest that we helped rally over at Farmington in front of the mall. That was like arrest them for not wearing masks and that sort of thing. And it got like 20,000 signatures. Like, it was actually insane how much attention it got. But, again, that wasn't local votes. That's just because it went sort of viral.
Right.
Um, and it's just kind of like, again, it's like change is I think it can make a difference because like maybe a company is like, okay, people don't like this, so the board meeting goes into play, and well, that's the truth about corporate hegemonies is that they're solely funded on money. If you show that you don't like something, then they probably won't do that.
Well, and
Doesn't
it
mean they're
did
sorry for doing it, but
it did get Netflix's attention. Um,
it's a
the
legitimate apology.
the main lady that did that petition is Allison Mitchell, and
Right.
and so she's the one that did the petition on Change.org. And when it was already like only like 50,000 signatures, Netflix did make a statement, actually to CBS News, which is funny how they like reached out to CBS News because they probably figured that they would give them a liberal quote unquote fair shake because they're probably all pedos over there as well. But it says we're deeply sorry for the inappropriate artwork that we used for the minuets slash cuties. Minuets is like sweet little young thing in French.
Right.
And
You were explaining that is that it's creepier than just cuties because cuties
yeah,
are whatever, but mignon is like, yeah, sweet little thing.
yeah,
It's a bit
sweet little
odd.
thing. Yeah, it's really creepy in French. Of course,
Yeah.
France for a long time has been very like morally corrupt. They walk around. A lot of French women walk around with aborted fetuses in little jars as necklaces.
Yeah, I was hearing about that. I don't
Yeah.
think that's extremely common. Like, there's no way that's a popular thing. That's
No,
like
it's a
very
popular
niche.
thing in France to have your aborted baby basically put in a little jar with formaldehyde, and you're proud of it.
I'll have to look into that more. I do remember reading about that like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a
So
thing for a long time. I don't know if it's fallen out of favor, but I've heard that for a while.
Well, that would be a very nasty sight to see while I'm trying to eat my baguette.
I have never been to France, but a buddy of mine, he was overseas and he got to go over there. And funny thing about Paris, France, it stinks.
Right.
It smells
So,
like garbage.
I believe that this is the only microphone. I do have someone with us today, and they've been listening in. It's my sister.
Hey
Um,
guys.
yeah, that's my
Hi.
sister. Um, we will call you Viking. No, Rose?
Viking.
Yeah, we could go Viking
Viking
Rose.
Rose,
There we
whatever.
go.
Viking Rose, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's my sister Ivory. Um, and so as we were going on, it's a bit disturbing. I don't know, like word for word, the whole mignon, like because obviously you did some like translation snooping
Mm-hmm.
to see if that was spot on. So I mean that is kind of disturbing. It's like it's a bit more than it's like why call it? Well, I don't know. I've seen different companies like change their name up for things, but undeniably that this is
And
just
that's the best
uh,
English translation I could find. It also, in French, basically also just kind of means like, hey, hey girl. Like, that's basically another translation for it in French.
interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe see, it's kind of funny. My sister's kind of doing what IT would do. Yeah, you may have noticed he's missing again. Not to bash the IT, but come on, man, you're part of the show. Get on here.
We will
You're talking
find
about
you and we.
minuet.
Is that it?
Are you talking about the translation of minuet?
It's whatever the name of the show on Netflix is in French, because it is originally a French show.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's something like I saw the spelling. It's something like mignon, and I was just thinking, so it's like filet mignon.
Yeah, it's Minones or
Mignon.
Mignon
I'll do my
Onnes.
Googlers.
Right. So it does kind of translate towards cuties, as you were saying. It's kind of a perversion of the word minuets, which is kind of funny because
Yeah,
that was
puppets.
that was a well, it was a dance. It was just a delicate dance. So the fact that this film is kind of based on this young girl who's interested in this twerking group is
It's disgusting.
it's well, no, I have no argument against it being disgusting. It most certainly is. And I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, well, the entire point of this movie is to discuss how these young women are sexualized and how it's actually trying to really bring up this content matter that these groups of young women are being turned into these sexual objects from an early age. But the way that Netflix has basically put it out there it's almost like a coming of age story where this young woman finds her freedom and her sexuality through these things, and it's like, no, that's like an 11-year-old girl.
Right, and see, originally the description included that. Now, Allison Mitchell, when she put up the petition on change.org, Netflix changed their description to the whole coming of age thing, and also basically changed it from talking about being uh, interested in wanting to learn to twerk and all this to, and get this, it actually almost is worse. Uh, Getting away from her conservative family's traditions and values.
Right. And exploring her femininity, which
Yes.
I think is, I mean, excuse me, but it's absolute bollocks to associate femininity with overt and perverse sexuality.
Right,
Being
right.
feminine doesn't mean that you are humping air and
Well,
dressing in
it's
just
like these women
nothing.
that are in these protests and stuff now, and actually more so, riots and stuff. But even before all this, that were are walking around like New York City topless and all this with their extreme stuff and whatever, and flashing in people's faces. It's like, do you? That's not. Why? To me,
You know,
femininity is.
because
Go ahead.
it's often sold as like this. Oh well, it's body positivity that you know you go out and do these things, and you know that's okay. I am all for body positivity, but it's completely different when you are putting your body out there in a way that is just objectification.
Well, right.
That
It's
is
like, well,
not
it's like we don't
that
want to
is
objectify
not
women, but I'm gonna walk around naked. I'm like, well, no.
right. Absolutely. And I'm sure I would receive a lot of hate for this, but I have a 10-year-old daughter, and there is no part of me that wants her to walk around in short shorts and a crop top because I know what that does, and the attention that you get from it, it may be like, oh yes, it's totally positive that people look at you this way and go, whoo, yeah, sexy. No, that's not positivity. That's just turning a person into an object
Right.
because it doesn't allow any space for basically that person to actually be a person, to have a personality, because all they've become is an object.
I
Right.
agree, and that does tie into that's both sides of things because it could be argued because there has been like I remember it's kind of reminding me of a debacle that has happened in almost every school across this country, and Farmington High School is no exception. There was a lawsuit just a few years back involving a young woman who was outside of dress code. She had like short shorts and like one of those crop tops they call it. It's like it's the shirt that shows the belly button.
Yeah, that's a crap.
Yeah, and they gave her hell for wearing that in a school, and the argument was along the lines, how do I put this? It was like she and her mother were saying that like, well, it's a problem for the other side that it's like the other side should learn to stop sexualizing things, and she should be able to wear this because it's hot outside. And a part of me, I understand. I do agree with that it's a tragedy that the innocence has been taken away from men in such a way that they could even look at that at a young age, or even teachers. I mean, if that's genuinely a risk for teachers, then you have a very awful teacher. But something is about that as well is that I don't think we should parade children around like that. If we can do what we can to hide them, because undeniably right now the world is a very unsafe place. It's a very predatory hunting ground, which the world has made go viral. Everybody's aware of it. There's pedos in our own backyard. It's kind of a nightmare, nightmare, scary, scary, And I don't mean to fearmonger, but in a world where this is a very large possibility that you could lose your child to these things, I think it would be within the best of interests to cover them up in a way. But we should fight for a world where we don't have to, if that makes sense. Not to say that we shouldn't cover our children, but what I mean is, it's like we shouldn't. It's we should
Well,
fight for a world without
in my
pedos.
opinion, it genuinely should not be a thing where we sexualize children in any way, so that that young girl, because she's hot, can wear a tank top, and God forbid her bra strap shows. That one to me is honestly absurd. That
Yeah,
it becomes such an issue that it's, oh my
Right.
God, she can't have her shoulders showing because
Well,
it's
and I think there's a
totally
happy medium
distracting.
there. Like I'm, first want to say I don't want our women, even young girls, having to wear burqas. You know.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. Well, and that's definitely not what I'm saying. Is I'm saying that it shouldn't even be a thought that until this young woman, that this girl is actually a young woman and is even in a place to be a sexual creature, that they should even be viewed as such.
Right.
So that seeing a young girl in like a tank top and oh my God, you see her bra straps. Okay, so what?
Yeah. So
She's just a child.
Yeah.
That doesn't even become an issue. But unfortunately, and I'm going to sound like my parents here, is that we live in a fallen world with a bunch of creeps.
yeah.
Right.
And it's entirely unfair, and that's the unfortunate thing is everybody's going, well, this is an unfair thing. Well, yeah, absolutely, entirely. It is totally unfair that these young women should have to wear long pants and a long shirt just to cover themselves. And I mean, as a woman myself, it gets really, really old to just exist and be an object, no matter what you do.
Right.
Because the problem is there will always be a predator out there, and we try and be safe, and we try and do all of the right things, but the problem is no matter where you're at, there is going to be somebody who is a predator.
Right.
Yeah. And that's more eloquently put what I was trying to say. Indeed, there
Well,
is
I do have experience on the topic.
right. Well, and this is market the first time where we actually have a true guest speaker on, as well as a
Yeah, that's awesome. And
guys can
also,
see
I was talking to
another
John about this
perspective.
before the podcast, and I was really excited to have you on, just to have a lady's perspective on some of the stuff that we talk about sometimes, because heck, sometimes we might be blowing it out our rear ends. I don't know. Um,
Right.
but I agree 100% with what you're saying, and also, coming from a dad's perspective, of daughters, you know, you, as a dad and a man, your natural instinct is to want to protect women. If you're decent, if you're not a piece of
Well,
trash,
yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
and
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 I,
and
I I completely agree with that viewpoint.
and with that said, it just scares me to death what my daughters, they're what they're having to grow up into.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, the world I grew up in is genuinely absolutely different than the one that my daughter is growing up in because she's 10. And so, I look at everything that's going on, and I don't remember having to be worried about going to the bathroom at the grocery store for fear of somebody waiting for me.
Right.
But now, as a mother, that is genuinely in my mind, and that's not. I'm not going over anything. I'm not saying anything against trans people or anything like that. It is genuinely the possibility that there is just somebody there waiting, no matter what they are or what they identify as or anything of that nature. It is entirely possible to have a just a like a child trafficker. I mean, my God, look at just Jill. I can't even say her name. Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah,
Oh, I
Ghislaine
can't.
Maxwell. Ugh.
Ghislaine Maxwell, and that to me is just, it's almost paralyzing to want to like take my kids out to Disney World because as I take them out and it's like, okay, my son wants, he needs to go to the bathroom, and I'm going, okay, he's old enough now that he doesn't want to go into the girls, into the women's with me anymore. He wants to go into the men's.
Right.
And if I get, if I get out before him or if he gets out after me or, any of those things where he takes too long, my mind immediately shifts to this, God, I hope I hope he's still in there.
Right.
And I don't, and that was not the case when I was a kid. So we're dealing in completely different times where the world has, I don't know, sometimes it just feels like it's completely lost its mind.
Yeah, and that's even a factor of uh that I kind of face every day waking up nowadays. It's you and War Spirit are about the same age. How old are you, Viking?
Never ask a woman's age.
34. Right. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm
You want to
36.
know my weight, maybe my shoe size?
Well, sure, if you want to share that with the world,
Oh, let's
everybody.
see. I don't know who's buying my shoes.
Right. To say, I'm sure there's plenty of people that'd be more than willing.
About 180-ish, given
The
how much
knowing
salt
the
I've had in a
internet, though,
day. 7.5 in women's.
knowing the internet, though, again, this is something that was not around when we were children. They'd probably asked, they'd buy you shoes and then ask to sniff them a week later.
Well, when I
Only if you're Joe
when I
Biden.
now that he'd want my hair. I get, funny, just a short blurb. I did modeling for a couple of years, and I did a pinup photo shoot with a classic car group. And I was sitting, I did this one car, and one of the guys came up to me after and went, "So do you like that car?" And I was like, "Oh, it's fine. Why?" And he's like, "Well, the owner, we call him Sniffy." And I was like, "Okay." And he went, "Yeah, he goes and sniffs all of the seats after the models have sat in it."
Ah,
Oh dear.
wow.
So I, like I said, I do have some experience in this world of just freaks and perverts.
Right. Well, it's almost unavoidable. Like, I'm not even going to go into that. I was about to make some bashes toward Rosinante for a moment, but then I was like, oh well, that upset the local audience. Probably have a few listeners from Rosinante. They'll be like, hey, it's not that bad. There was only that stuff on the table about 4 times in one year. Chill. Um, but anyways, yeah. So like I was saying, you know, even when I was young, I do remember that. Well, let's put it this way. Like, I mean, my folks are always onto it, right? They were always like, be careful, don't go out this way. They were okay with me running about on my own after I was probably like 12. But, if I was at a park or something, it still was like off limits. And of course, that's different because I am male and, you know, uh, female and just creeps generally just tend to lean straight.
Well,
Um,
in this day and age,
I was gonna say in this
yeah,
day and
you're
age, you
right.
don't even know.
40%.
this day I
Um,
know, but this day and age, I mean, young
right.
kid, it doesn't matter if they're not
No.
going to use you, they're going to sell you.
Right,
Right.
that's
Take your pick.
true. Uh, yeah, and I was about to quote that statistic. It was something like 40. That's just an estimate. Don't take that word for word, but it was like 40% of all pedophiles are homosexual. But I don't even know how they're able to record that. Like, what did they just like contact the
Yeah, I was about to say,
pedophiles,
they must have taken it from case
like
studies.
With
lines and case studies?
that said, uh, young females, even into high school, are at a higher, greater risk. Like I remember when I was in high school, especially by the time I was a junior, I wasn't afraid of anybody kidnapping me.
Right. And of course that is also based on location and that sort of thing. Viking Rose lives in a populated area, very populated area, much larger city than
Yes, the
density would
big
require.
city.
Yeah,
Yes, very big city and very popular city. So, and a very child-heavy city. So I live in a place that, I mean, you genuinely do have to be worried because we have major hubs such as, I mean, we have international airports, and I have to tell you something. On my way here, absolutely terrifying. Checking my kids into the airport as we traveled, they didn't require their birth certificates. They I gave them my ID, and that was it. They didn't
Really?
require anything. They didn't even want to see their faces. And, both my, since the whole COVID thing, they both had masks on, and that was it. They required nothing, not even at, security checks, absolutely nothing. So that
Wow.
just tells me what kind of environment we are currently living in where trafficking children is as easy as buying a plane ticket.
No kidding.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember when my parents, and this has been a couple years ago, wanted to take my oldest to Disneyland in California. And we had to go through getting her an ID and all this other stuff. Of course, this is, before COVID and all that. And all we had to jump through, they had to jump through actual hoops and stuff. So now it sounds like it
Yeah,
makes it easy for
absolutely.
the traffickers.
It was insane. I mean, I brought their birth certificates, everything with me that I had on them, and I didn't have to touch it once.
That's very
That is
concerning.
crazy. Which kind of made me wonder, and not to say that TSA agents are in on it, but with a lot of this stuff, well, actually, TSA agents,
TSA
they might
agents
very
are
well be. No one
like
knows.
worse than mall cops.
Well, I actually, when I was younger, I think I was about 21, and I went and applied for a TSA position, and I found out a bit later that my position that I was going for was given to somebody who had an actual criminal record,
Wow.
but they had given it to them as part of a scheme of hiring disadvantaged people.
I love
Right.
that.
So jump on that one if you want.
Right, but going on to that, so what I was saying is like, it kind of makes me wonder, with the timing of everything, because COVID come along and everyone, even we were like, I remember we were doing podcasts when COVID-19, before it was even called COVID-19, we just called it,
The Wuhan virus.
yeah, we called it the Wuhan plague, really, because there wasn't a name for it. It wasn't
Yeah.
really clear. We were doing this early on, and we've been covering, like, our first episode was actually about Epstein. Like, that was when we first started. Was when that was like
Yeah, I was
blowing
actually
up.
looking at that today because every now and then it still pops up because I have it on a bunch of MeWe pages, and every now and then somebody will see it and give it a thumbs up, and so I was actually listened to part of it today, and I'll have to say our audio and everything has gotten way better.
Yeah, well, that's part of the show growing. We were all sitting in a bunker, sharing a $40 microphone, which, I mean, we're still here with like another $40 microphone.
As,
And I,
and I just like to make it perfectly clear to anybody who's listening that Epstein did not kill himself.
yeah, well,
Amen,
that's
sister.
what we've been gone on. Yeah, he didn't, but
And
it,
neither did just Ghislaine
yeah, in a
Maxwell
week,
Right.
whenever it
whenever she
happens.
decides to quote unquote kill
Well,
herself.
we did talk about that. She was taken out of solitary
Yeah, we
confinement.
talked about that last
Oh
week.
dear God.
Her lawyers pushed for it.
Her and her lawyers pushed for it, which is so odd to me.
That well, that can kind of be a catch 22 because if you are in solitary confinement, you are really left on your own. So
Right.
it might actually be a safer thing for her to be around other people.
When we
Yeah.
talked about that, and we also talked about, and this was just a theory of mine, that maybe, see, the judge had mentioned that she had access to large amounts of money. That's the reason why she was a flight risk, and that's why she didn't make bail. So imagine, if you will, if somebody could get a hold of that money in her behalf and maybe put it in a bunch of prisoners' commissary accounts as bodyguards.
Right. Yeah, make commissary. As WarSpirit, because you had to go deal with something, was saying, um, basically she could be taking money now that she's out of solitary confinement from her offshore accounts and maybe making bodyguards out of local prisoners around her.
Yeah.
Well, that would be in her best interest. Um,
I mean, after all, solitary confinement didn't save Epstein.
I mean, if I was her, I'd be like, "You want them Twinkies? You want to buy them Twinkies? You can buy as many Twinkies as you want. Just come here, be my
well,
friend."
and I mean, if you can't trust the fact that I mean, just the fact that the cameras failed and the security guards were off. I don't know, wanking each other off. I don't really know, but and that, and then when you look at the I'm sorry, when you look at the autopsy reports, and it's like, oh well, you don't often see this in self-hanging cases, but you do see that the bone in his throat is actually broken. You usually see that in manual strangulation. It makes you go, huh.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and we could go really deep into the iceberg. The photo of dead Epstein has a very different nose
Oh yes,
than,
absolutely.
which kind of makes me. I mean, I don't know what the benefit of keeping him alive would give them. Like, truly, he is. Like, I've always seen him as kind of like, yeah, he's a POS. I hope he is kind of dead, but like, it is kind of shite. But like, I can't really see the value that this elite as a big picture would have in Epstein at this point.
Well,
Other, unless he's part of the, and this is, I'm gonna sound like turn the frogs freaking gay guy. Uh, unless he's part of the cabal.
Right.
true, but it kind of comes down to, as the cabal, what is the best interest of the group, and the best interest of the group may be him dead. But the other thing to consider is yes, there's a ton of evidence that they haven't even come across yet, as it were. And they also don't know the extent of what he collected.
Right.
Having him alive means that he knows where it is and that he can keep it safe. Whereas if he's dead, they know certain places to look for such information. So they know to look at, Pedo Island and,
Zorro
right
Ranch.
here in New
Yeah.
Mexico at the
Right.
Zorro Range.
Which still hasn't been rated and
Under
searched, by the
Machete
way.
on Grissom's desk.
Shocking. No way. Um, and so it's in the interest of keeping him alive. That would be one of the reasons that they would want to, is because there is no telling where the information may be kept. Whereas if he's alive, he knows and he will keep it hidden as long as it behooves him to do so.
Well, and that's
Right.
maybe the reason why Ghislaine is still alive, because she's claiming she has all these videos. Well, I'm sure she hasn't gone out and said, "Yeah, they're in locker 15." She's like, "No, no, 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 no. I will only show you these videos until it's all over.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Because once they have that, she's dead."
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that she, as much of a foul, disgusting piece of human refuse as she may be, I don't think that she's stupid.
Yeah, I'm sure she has a dead man switch. Of pay Jimmy, little Jimmy or something. Hey, if I'm dead, go to locker whatever and open theirs up. All of them are right in there.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure that there are lawyers out there that she's got, that she has a death clause that says, okay, here's all of this. And, the second I'm dead, turn it over to these particular people. And
Right.
that genuinely, that is what I would do in her situation, because that's the only thing, honestly, that's keeping her alive.
Right.
Which goes back to even more proof that maybe Epstein still is alive, because I mean, and maybe he was dumber than her. I don't know, but you would think the man would have thought. It's you watch this in crime movies. It's not hard to figure out how to get leverage on somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had tons on very powerful people.
Right. I mean, that
And
was the very sole reason for Pedo Island.
right, absolutely. But the thing with Epstein is if you look at just his mentality, is he is a classic narcissist, a basically a psychopathic narcissist, and well, more of a sociopath, because a lot of the things that he did were, they were highly intelligent, but they were also impulsive. So the things that kept him grounded may have been people like Ghislaine. And sociopaths, where they really differ from a psychopath, is they tend to be more impulsive. So they will do things that are, they're absolutely nuts. They're not as premeditated, whereas a psychopath are, incredibly intelligent,
Sure.
where they will plan things and have all of these preset caveats that they've got in place, which is why, like I said, which is why I think Ghislaine is still alive, as she may have been the planner of this particular group, where she was able to look ahead and go, we really need to have these things in place.
Sure.
So,
And I could
who
see her
knows?
being the brains of the operation. Jeffrey never hit me as that smart of a guy. As far as, I mean, even the things that he said and the way some of the ways that it was proved that he got caught with, these, that one instance with the underage girl, like soliciting her in New York. It's like, you got this
Right,
island. Why don't you keep your mouth shut when you're on the when you're in the mainland? If you're that kind
right.
of a creep.
And you've got this racket going in Florida, that you've got hundreds of these young women who are brought into you, just, just a carousel of these young women coming in and out,
Right.
without most of them with bought, they've all been bought. Their silence has been bought because they come from these, disadvantaged backgrounds. So it does seem to me that his, almost that he felt he was too big to fall. He was too big to be caught, and that genuinely was the end of that was his downfall.
I'm gonna go have to yell at these dogs.
I was gonna say, could we get those dogs out of?
Hey, you better cut that out. I'm trying to do a show here.
And it, you twit.
Sorry about that. I was like, golly. Oh, I got a habanero. That's my Chihuahua. Habanero still has his nuts, and then I have Amos, which is a German Shepherd. And Amos is just kind of a dopey imbecile. He's a cute dog, whereas Hobby sees everything as a challenge because he's still got his nuts, so they're always going at it. But anyways, yes, it's all adding together like this puzzle, but yet we are just left with theories.
Yeah, and
But they are good ones, and I think that every theory we have has a bit of what's going on in it, like a puzzle piece.
well, and that's why I try to always keep up with stuff and put stuff together. And I apologize to the audience if we keep going back to this stuff, but it keeps rolling back around. Just like this week, it's come out. Some people on Twitter and different places. In fact, Joe Rogan even kind of mentioned it in passing. Talked about how Ellen DeGeneres, it's come out, with her and all that stuff with the Wayfair stuff. Interviewed Jesus Campos. Well,
Right.
if you guys will remember Jesus Campos, he was the security guard that confronted, supposedly, allegedly, the Mandalay Bay shooter. And
Oh yes.
when Ellen had him on, they had a representative of Mandalay Bay there, and it was weird because I actually watched that episode today on because it's on, you can find it on YouTube. And so she very methodically, and they had these like 3D images of the Mandalay Bay Hotel and everything, and explained to the audience what happened and where he went. And so all Jesus Campos really had to do was kind of sit there and kind of nod his head and go, "Oh yes, ma'am. That's it. And she explained to the audience what happened. And before, like one day before he was to go on the Ellen DeGeneres show, he actually had set up interviews with all of the major news groups. And it was actually even rumored that he was excited to get to do this because he was going to get his 15 minutes of fame. And all of a sudden, Mandalay Bay said, "No, you're not going to go on any of these actual legitimate news groups. You can only go on Ellen." And the article that I read kind of hypothesized that they didn't want anybody asking him any hard-hitting questions that would mess with the timeline, because the timeline was kind of iffy already, and it changed 3 times by this time.
Yeah. And make sure I'm not. Can you hear me all right, WarSpirit?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry
Good.
if I went on a rant.
No, no. You were introducing us to the next talking point, which is Jesus, the security guard you said of the casino.
Yes, Jesus Campos. He was supposedly the guy that confronted the Mandalay Bay shooter. I'm not going to say his name because I hate giving shooters fame.
Understandable. So, but even then, it's kind of interesting because it doesn't add up.
No,
Uh,
not at
the
all.
backstory. I mean, none of this Las Vegas shooting stuff, and it's crazy, that we're back to this, but it's because you did digging and you're like, what is this? How come this security guard was only on Ellen DeGeneres?
Well,
I think
and the
that's very
reason
honest
why
though too to do that.
it keeps sticking out to me with Ellen, and I mean we talked about her last week too, is still her show setting has Jeffrey Epstein's temple is part of like the
Theme,
border.
yeah,
It looks
it's
exactly the
very,
same.
yeah, it's very similar, and it's become increasingly clear that these many celebrities are, well, they're involved with the deep state. Which Ellen DeGeneres, being that you said that he was denied these other shows to go be on Ellen, how perfect, right? Well, yeah, we can have this absolutely paramount piece of citing and evidence and all this to go be on, to go be on a news channel and talk about it. But then No, only Ellen DeGeneres, which is perfectly convenient if Ellen DeGeneres is truly part of, the deep state, as it seems abundantly clear that she is.
Right, and I was talking to
Um,
somebody about this earlier today, and they're like, "Well, what what would she have gotten out of that? Like, why you say that?" And I'm like, "Well, here's my and again, I'm gonna talk like this again because I kind of sound like it just makes me angry. It it could have been that the deep state was already they already had plans because it already show the timeline for the coronavirus that the Chinese created was several years in the making. This was 2017 when this happened, so that's not that far of a deal to think, oh, they already had this in the plans. What
right.
if they were trying to use this as part of an ongoing all these shooters to disarm us, so it would have been easier to control us by this time? Now, they kind of failed on that because all they got was bump stocks, but they didn't know that.
Right. And that's what I was kind of getting into with like the TSA earlier. Um, Perhaps with you'll notice that this all kind of throttled up at the same time. The same time COVID became a genuine fear among the populace, where everyone was scared and beating each other up over masks and all this. Ghislaine Maxwell showed up again.
Right.
Oh, and I I do see both sides, and this actually makes me happy. I see both sides commonly and agreeing that there are pedos ruling this nation and that pedophilia is bad.
Right.
It's almost like we're getting our unity back, which, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done, because all that's really turned into is, oh, well, your sides are pedophiles. And there's like, no, your sides are pedophiles. When the truth is, well, both of our sides have their share of pedophiles. And like I was saying, when it was ramping up, this whole thing, as I was saying, is how interesting that COVID could very possibly be another piece in this um, million piece puzzle. Perhaps it's one of the tactics that's being used to, this new thing just popped up. Quickly, the death rates have skyrocketed, or quickly, the new cases have skyrocketed because the death rate's not working anymore.
Right.
We can't prove it, and that sort of thing. And that's maybe a bit of a reach, and I understand that.
Well,
Maybe it's just coincidental, but
I don't think it's too much of a reach, and this is going back to the pedophilia part of it, that Netflix released this cuties to try to, in some way, normalize pedophilia. So before these pedophiles, it comes out who they are, they're more normalized.
right,
Well, just to drag it in a completely different direction. Before COVID became this big thing, there was this breaking story that Bill Gates had resigned from Microsoft. He was no longer a part of the board,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a ton of fluff pieces. And I thought it was really weird at the time because it was like, okay, he's no longer part of the board of Microsoft. Whoopity doo.
right,
But there was all of this focus on his philanthropic work, and it was like, who cares?
right.
Right.
He's Bill Gates. Like we've known him since forever. What the hell is this? And then
You'd
you
almost think he
kind of
died.
yeah,
Right.
it was bizarre. And then as COVID progressed, it was like, oh, well, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have suddenly started pushing this agenda for these RNA vaccines, and they're hugely invested in this. And it was like, oh, okay, so but why are they making Bill Gates into this? Why was this necessary long before he was a controversial figure? Why did that suddenly become a thing? And you start putting these pieces together, where you're going, they're conditioning you to see something in a different light, because that was exactly what it was. It was like, oh no, we need people to see him as this very generous, uh, great man who is willing to give up millions to better mankind. And if that's not an indicator that that there's something behind all of it, and that they knew it was coming. I mean, I don't know what is.
Right.
Right. Well,
Because for me
it
that was
is,
a
yeah.
massive one, and when it came out I was going, I'm sorry, what? Who cares? It's Bill Gates. But then all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, we need to trust this man who doesn't have a medical degree, who didn't graduate, and it was just genuinely bizarre.
Yeah.
So this same thing is going on where it's okay, well, so this new film is discussing, the evils of sexualizing young girls, but the exposure is still there, that you are seeing these young women, I'm sorry, not young women, these children in this light of being sexual objects.
Right.
And despite what they say, that, oh, it's actually trying to discuss the wrongs of this, it is normalizing it. And I'm not
Right.
saying that it's not a discussion that needs to be had, but when you dramatize it and put it out there as a coming of age story about freeing yourself from your horrible parents and their dictates and your religious upbringing, there is no part of me that thinks, ah, yes, this is exactly what we should be seeing. I totally think that this is creating a worthwhile discussion. It's
It's
just
the same
you've
ploy was used in the
currently
60s.
conditioning people.
Yeah. The same ploy was used in the 60s with the sexual revolution.
Right. Well, what I was seeing with this is like Rose was saying, along the lines, um, it's one of those things where it's like perhaps like why did they feel the need to dramatize it?
Right. Why
Perhaps they
couldn't it
should
have
have
been a
been
documentary?
right. Why couldn't it have been a documentary? Why couldn't it have been a writing? But I also was disturbed by the description of it. It seemed very. I mean, yeah, granted, Netflix is a very progressive company, but to put things into perspective, it's like the wording they used. It's like it's kind of a dead giveaway. Let me put it in this way. It said like to fight her conservative parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, I was like, well, I understand that conservative is a. There goes the dogs again. I'm trying to talk, but it's like I understand that conservatism is a broad word. It's basically it can be good or bad depending on the light. But I thought it was very targeting, and it's like they wanted Americans, and they want. So if you'll notice, I've talked to people of the LGBT, arrangement about this. I was like, do you know that there's these group of people that want to push this thing called maps on you? And they're like, maps? And I'm like, yeah, minor attracted persons. And they're like, isn't that a pedophile? I'm like, it is, but they don't want to be called that. And so, like, most of them are like, well, no, they're not part of this group. I don't want them to be part of this. But so badly do they want this to become a part of the LGBT community because they want to be able to call you hateful if you don't like pedophiles.
Well, but they've
That's their
already they've
objective.
already gone down this road, and I talked about this a couple years ago, and people thought I was crazy about the whole, once we accept that homosexuality is okay, now they go with the transgender thing, and now they're just going on down the list because if I can decide, well, I no longer, even though I have male parts, if if I decide that I actually identify as a woman, why can't I also identify as a 10-year-old boy?
Right.
Right. Well, and I'm going to speak here in defense of the LGBT community. And the thing is when you get into pedophilia, it's okay. So you've got bi people, gay people, transsexuals. The biggest thing that I have a problem with is when you start saying that there's consent in place, because you cannot have consent to a to anything sexual as a minor.
Right.
Whereas, okay, so you're transgender, you decide, you know, I don't identify as a man anymore. I am now a woman. Okay, you are a grown ass adult, and that is that's your choice.
Right.
But when you start saying, I am no longer a grown ass adult, I identify as a 12-year-old and I feel that I should also be able to touch 12-year-old children, that's new.
Yeah,
And
it falls under the
most
new
of,
now.
I can say that I have never spoken to somebody in the LGBTQT whatever community
The keyboard smack.
that they are not on board with that.
Right.
They don't have those consent rules in place. So there is a very severe underlying perversion that's trying to sneak its way in via the back door
Yeah.
of these things. And I know many, many good people who are lesbian, gay, bi,
So on and
and
so forth.
transgender. And they would be sickened by this. But
Yep.
that is not to say that there are not freaking weirdos out there who are not, they want this same acceptance and everything that these people have worked for.
Mhm.
And
That's yeah.
and I'm sure
yeah.
I'm ruffling a lot of feathers. I know
What we
No.
accept,
podcast.
what we what we
We
accept,
want truth.
what we accept
And
today
that's not
becomes
what you're trying
normal
to say.
tomorrow.
Right, and that's the thing is though is this is not acceptance of pedophilia. And that is the thing that I'm talking about is that
Right.
these people I know who are this way do not accept pedophilia. A lot of them have been traumatized as children, and they would never wish it upon anybody or think that it's normal.
Right, and so that's pretty much along the lines of what I was getting at. Is that most of the LGBT people that I've
Drag
talked
queen
to,
story hour.
right, are they really are against pedophilic practices. And then like the drag queen story hour, which I'm vehemently against, just simply because if there was a straight sexual story hour for the same reason, I'd be against it. It's like kid. Well, why are we so intent on forcing sex on forcing this idea of
Grooming.
sexual activities, grooming,
Right, absolutely.
and it would be the same thing. It's like, well, it's not that the fact that there's a trans story hour. It's that like what's business is it is children's, and so like
Right,
I
and,
understand.
and and
Yeah,
definitely on that note, I'm
mm,
not defending that in any way
right,
because I think that that sensationalizes, and I have to wonder really what they're thinking when they go into something like that because genuinely most of the drag queens I've ever known would go, no, I'm not going to go do a drag queen story hour.
well, I've even
That's
seen
not
that.
right.
I've even seen
That's
that
just
one
way
guy
out
stand
there.
against it. It was a
Yeah,
YouTube video.
absolutely.
Yeah, he was actually went viral for standing against it. And what I mean is that it's a very sensible position. So I think a large problem with the LGBT as a whole is that it's like a lot of problems with a lot of parties. Like I wouldn't call myself Republican, but a lot of people would gather me with that. The same problem goes for even the more cultural movements, such as the LGBT, where it's like, yeah, someone might be gay, but they don't want to be associated with the LGBT as a party,
Yeah.
And so that was a problem for a bisexual friend of mine who attends Fort Lewis, and he was always being invited to the LGBT things, only to be mocked and ridiculed because, well, if you're bisexual, then you're not committing all the way.
Right. Yeah. No, I've heard
Um,
that lots of times
yeah,
because if you know me personally, I can sit on the fence of either one.
right.
And for me, I'm going. It's it's genuinely unfair because you have a lot of bisexual people who don't fit in on any level because it's like, oh well, if you're not entirely gay, then you just haven't decided yet.
Right, and it's just kind of like one of those things. It's like you would you would be shocked if let's put into example if Trump said everybody let's go jump off a bridge, how many people would? You know what I mean? And the same goes for
I don't know.
leftist
Do I have to put
organizations.
disinfectant up my butt?
Right. I don't think he didn't say it like
I know
that,
he didn't
but
say that.
I just want you to
I
know,
just
if you take disinfectant, I don't know, should we be taking it orally? I'm not for sure. Maybe that's something we should look into. Okay?
right.
Just saying.
uh,
Right.
God, that whole thing, it had me laughing because I had lots of liberal friends who were going, I can't believe he said, how many people are going to die? And I'm going, you know what? If somebody wants to drink disinfectant, let him do
Let's
it.
say,
Let him go.
if
That's
that was a
that's that's
student in
Darwin's law
Australia,
right there. Let's take the warning labels off of everything while we're at it. We could, they're always
Sleep with
complaining
an
about like
iron, go
we have
ahead.
too many people, too much high population. Take the warning labels off. It'll take care of itself.
If
truly,
you want to bathe with a toaster, go ahead.
and that's the whole
If you
point.
want to sleep with your ironing on, your iron on, go ahead.
And that's the
If you want to
libertarian
iron your
inside me.
clothes while you're on,
See,
fine.
because
Get
I
that too.
think I don't think any drugs should be illegal. If you want to shoot up
Absolutely not.
heroin, you go for it. As long as it's not affecting me, I don't care if you ruin your life. And that sounds cold, and I mean it's not that I don't like have love for you or anything, but it's your life, not mine.
Right, and it's just kind of like, and that's what this would probably I would rather have if people are going to generalize the show, other than just blue collar working people, the show. I would prefer it be labeled a libertarian, really, because that's kind of our philosophy. It's like, well, if you're not hurting anybody, go ahead.
Well,
That's
I mean, as long as you're hurting only yourself, that's
right.
fine.
Like, and that's how I do agree with. It's like if someone wants to, you know, uh, you'll see both sides attacking that. Like Trump, for example. This was a bit odd, but when he attacked smokers, he made it where you had to be
Mm,
21 to buy cigarettes. Now, that was a bit odd, but it just kind of goes again. It's like, well, I agree with a lot of his policies, but, again, I'm not part of that party all the time.
right.
Uh-oh. But I have my niece. She just got scratched by the doggy.
Oh.
He stepped on her foot. Anyways,
Anyways,
um,
so kind of moving on with some of this stuff. So
yeah.
you're a video game fan, aren't you, John?
Yes,
What
I
about your
am. I
sister?
am. She
Nerd.
kind of likes video games.
It depends on the
I
content and
used
if
to
I've
take
got
her video
time.
games and I would play them.
I'm
Break
actually
them.
the one who introduced you to video
I
games.
I was I've heard actually you used to play Tinshu.
Oh my god, I love Tenshu. That
I
game's
love Tinshu
amazing.
Self Assassin. I loved that game back in the day on PS1.
I love a good stealth game, and genuinely those were like the peak of it for me. And I don't think that there's a whole lot that's come after that really compares with actually having to hide and run and not get killed.
Metal Gear Solid
Oh,
was
you would. I was gonna say you would
Metal
love Metal
Gear
Gear.
Solid was
yeah.
I played Metal Gear for a week straight, and then I had to take it back because I'd rented it, and then I rented it for another week.
Right.
And then I think I eventually bought it when I'd saved up enough allowance to get it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we both are. We're all great fans of Metal Gear, the series.
I don't know.
Yes.
Some of the later ones were
Odd. I do love
Sons of
number
the
5.
Patriots.
That one was odd.
Is that
That
the
one was
second one?
yeah, it was the second
It
one.
was.
It
It
was
was the
basically
second
a
Yeah.
rehash of the first one, and then they told you that at the end of it, and it was like, haven't you noticed that this was a simulation of the Metal
one.
Gear of Solid Snake? And you're sitting there going, I knew I'd played this before.
Right.
Dang it.
And then there was I loved the Colonel in that one where he started like bugging out.
Oh, right.
Don't run with scissors, Mary. What? Just like weird things. Um, but yeah, no. Video games have been a part of my life. Pretty much my entire uh, cognitive existence. Like I do remember people have asked me, it's like, well, what's the first video game you played? And I'm like, Twisted Metal 4 for the PlayStation 1. It was the
Hmm.
earliest I could remember. Um,
I love the Twisted Metal games.
yeah, Twisted Metal was great. There's a lot of really odd.
Did I lose you guys?
No, sorry, we were discussing something.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
Sorry. It
no,
cut out, and I was like, oh.
no, but Twisted Metal 4 was. Yeah, so we're gonna have our guest speaker stand off for a second, but we had Twisted Metal 4 and a bunch of other games. But in my own time, like I remember when I was started buying games for myself, I took a keen interest because everybody had it but me. like everyone had played Call of Duty. Call of Duty was the game to have when I was like 13. Because like when I was 13, I believe is when Modern Warfare came out, which was
Right.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which was a huge game, still is a huge game, so huge that the one of the largest games, and I mean in size and popularity, the game is retardedly huge in like gigabyte size. It was it was Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare started kind of like for the PS3 generation, the new genre of what FPS is going to look like from there on out.
Yeah.
And as I was about to say, so like I remember Modern Warfare, and then that was developed by a team called Infinity Ward, and then later on, World at War, which was a Call of Duty World at War developed by Treyarch, a branch of Activision, or another branch of Activision came out, and then they kind of went back and forth. So then Modern Warfare 2 came out, and then Black Ops came out. And Black Ops was an interesting piece because it concentrated on a very forgotten piece of history, American history, which is the Cold War, even involving you into kind of like this very plausible scenario where it was really cool for me as like I think I was like 15 at this point, to kind of experience like something that very well could have happened. Like it was purely historical fiction at its best. It puts you in the shoes of a man named Mason, and he was tied up to a chair. And as far as you knew, Americans were questioning him. You don't know why, what's going on, but it's based in the 50s and the early 60s during the Vietnam conflict and other conflicts in the Cold War, like Cuba and that sort of thing, the Bay of Pigs. And it introduced you to what the Cold War would look like through like a soldier's eyes who's doing things that like no country is known of, a ghost, a black ops figure.
Right.
And so Black Ops 1 was very cool. I enjoyed it. And then you had Black Ops 2, which again, might I add, these like in Black Ops 1, there's this mission that involves a gulag called Vorkuta. It was my
Mm-hmm.
favorite mission ever made. Like to this day, like I can't, like if someone asked me my favorite like video game level, it would have to be like Vorkuta would probably be one of the top five, just because of how like they nailed that despair, that grayscale Soviet depression. You have been forced to work here for so long, as well as it just worked for the story so perfectly. Um, but Black Ops 2 came along, which kind of goes into the future and also goes back to like the 80s and switches back and forth between the two, the 80s and the future. And now they had Black Ops 3, which was travesty, and Black Ops 4, which again, I got Black Ops 3 for free. I played about 15 minutes of it and I uninstalled it. I
That
was like,
was
this,
that was me. I had it on Xbox
yeah,
One. I paid it like 15, 20 minutes. After the first time, like you had to like run on the wall and go around something. I'm like, this isn't Black Ops.
right. So I give respect for Black Ops 2 because it blended the story. It made it make sense for the story to be kind of like in the future and also in the past, that it has connection, and it was really cool. I'd never seen a game where 1 minute you're in 1985 and the next minute you're in like 2036, which
Mm-hmm.
was again amazing. And you're also still playing as those old characters from the first one. And overall, Black Ops was an amazing series up until the third and the fourth one. However, a trailer came along called Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. And it's not really clear what this game is going to look like, or exactly what entirely it's going to be just all about. However, the trailer for it is astounding. It's you can look it up on YouTube. It's called Call of Duty Know Your History trailer, or Call of Duty Cold War Know Your History trailer. The Call of Duty Know Your History trailer, coincidentally, I posted just a few months before it came out. Um, what's it called? Yuri Bezmenov, the Soviet KGB defector,
Mm-hmm.
in his interview. And then I saw Yuri Bezmenov's face on the new Call of Duty trailer, and I was like, where's this going? Like I paused the video. I was like, what are you doing? And it basically red pilled a lot of the gaming community, from what I understand, because this is a real video. Yuri Bezmenov exists. They're not just a Call of Duty character. He actually exists. This KGB defector. And if you have that picture, WarSpirit, on your computer, if you can throw it up
Oh,
on
yeah, yeah,
screen.
yeah, yeah. Here we
Yeah,
go.
either the Call of Duty or the Yuri Bezmenov. This is a real individual who actually defected from the KGB and had an interview with someone who looks like he's from the 700 Club. I actually have no idea who that is. But he had an interview, and the full interview can be found on YouTube, and it's harrowing to actually listen to it because it makes sense. It's a huge piece in this puzzle of what's going on in this nation.
I clicked
Um,
on scene 3, but it's not changing over here on the live portion for some odd.
it takes like 5 minutes or
Oh,
maybe
there it
less. There's
goes.
quite a lag. Yeah, there's quite
There
a
is
lag on
quite a
this.
lag.
Yeah, that's even with my premium Ethernet cables and everything. But no, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is an announced game, as came out recently. Actually, I'm sorry. I gotta readjust my microphone. Here.
Yes, please do. I keep hearing.
Right. And so that one's coming about, and it actually features in the trailer, the Know Your History trailer, Yuri Bezmenov, this actual person, in an actual interview where he talked about a individual named Perseus who has infiltrated the United States government, and to this day nobody knows who this spy was or where he ended up and what all the damage he had done is.
Pretty cool.
It's unclear. And so this being the opening act, like right away, this being the trailer has made me go like, okay, Call of Duty was listening. And sometimes it takes these gaming companies, especially the ones guilty like Call of Duty, of shoveling the same shite year after year and calling it a new game.
What do you mean? It's not another Nazi game?
Right. Well, it actually hasn't been in a while. It's usually America beat Russian, yeah, and it's
And actually, Call of Duty 3, that's the biggest complaint I had with 3 is you didn't know who the bad guy was. The quote-unquote bad guys,
oh, you mean
it's
Black
kind of,
Ops 3?
yes.
Yeah,
It's
which is kind of
kind of,
like
it's up there for
all you knew is
interpretation.
that they wore orange. That was
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. And so what and I've talked to John about this before. That's why I'm so excited with this is that's what turned me off so bad about 3 and 4
Yeah.
and before that you used real history like for example in the first one the bad guy is
Right,
a
Black
bad
Ops and
guy.
Black Ops 2. Yeah, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 does have more of a sympathetic villain where you feel bad for him, but it's still made clear that he's a psychopath and that you don't really want to side with him, which is respectful. But like you were saying, in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, it wasn't even Black Ops. I think they just kept the name because Black Ops 1 and 2 were incredibly successful. I see the same pattern going on with like Assassin's Creed. Like they had this one called Origins, and they had this one called Odyssey. And playing them, it kind of felt like I was playing Final Fantasy Assassin's Creed Edition. Like it was weird. And this is their new format where
Did,
it's like,
did you like walk through a forest and end up in a ton of unnecessary battles against low level creatures?
oh,
That was
I
awesome.
mean, yeah, that is quite like
That's all I remember about
it was
Final
Random
Fantasy.
encounters. I got to go
it
through
added in like
12 random encounters to go one square.
You have to
right,
beat the spicy potato that you've come across. Oh no, there's 12 of them.
right,
Oh my god.
right.
I'm out of
And
heals. Just kill me now. You lose.
I hate turn-based games, by the way.
You know,
right.
the only one I've ever enjoyed was Knights of the Old Republic. And
Oh, I love Knights of the. I do like that one.
that's about the only one I've ever been able to be like, okay, I could play this a second time. But the Final Fantasy ones, there would just become a point where I'd be going, I cannot soldier through any more of this turn-based garbage
Right,
because you'd just be walking along and there's no way to avoid it.
right.
There's no path you can take to avoid these endless, inane battles that you end up and you're just going, I give up. You know, I was enjoying this storyline where it was going, but I just can't do this anymore. And you just walk away because it's like, I don't have that kind of time.
Right. And so on the topic of like Call of Duty, which is a very different game from Final Fantasy. If any of you haven't played a video game in your life and are wondering what an Atari is to this day, then that's the case. You're right. But the deal with that, so like Call of Duty Cold War, Black Ops Cold War, looks like a return to their roots, a return to the what Black Ops is supposed to be about instead of like laser guns and
Right.
space pirates.
And
Which I mean,
Hey, I'd like me a good game about space pirates.
that would be actually pretty cool. They should make a mod about that on
I
Sea
mean,
of Thieves.
Treasure Planet was genuinely
That would
one
make a
of the
cool
most
game.
underrated Disney films that there has
That
ever
would
been.
be a fun game. Can you imagine that as like a free roam?
It was a free roam. They did make a video game.
It wasn't free roam.
It was pretty free
I
roam.
I thought it was linear.
No, it's not linear.
Well, it was very PlayStation One, so
It was definitely very PlayStation 1.
right.
As as free roam as you could really get on
You're right.
PS1.
But Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War has made a very controversial trailer, um, which has made a lot of the Antifa type community across Reddit. Allah forgive me for saying that website's name. Um, among other things, very angry. And I thought it was very odd because it doesn't say Antifa. Like it purely stayed in the 60s. Like it was like,
well,
the sort
the
of
comment section on this trailer is ablaze.
yeah, at the first day was like based, awesome, nice to see Call of Duty taking a stand, which I thought was odd because
Well,
like
for the
first
most part, it's still like that, but there is a lot of Antifa guys and Black Lives Matter and stuff saying, "No, that's not what Yuri Bezmenov meant. You're taking his speech out of context, and you need to go listen to what the man had to say." And everybody's like, for the most part, yeah, whatever.
yeah, well, the fact that there has been an enemy to undermine this nation, and I thought it was pretty funny that like not even 2 full months ago I posted Yuri Bezmenov and here's Call of Duty taking my work. Just kidding. No,
Ooh, narcissist much.
right? No,
He does this all the time. It's okay. We're used to it.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I talk to him on the phone every afternoon. I just roll my eyes and fold in my laundry.
You guys don't have to bash my narcissism, okay?
We have
It's
to
a
keep you.
disorder.
We have to
Well,
keep
I'm
you
your
humble.
person.
Normalize-
Want me to bash something else?
Normalize narcissism. Normalize narcissism.
I'm a nap.
I'm a nap. Narcissist attracted person, as in I'm attracted to myself.
That works perfectly.
Yeah, truly. Um, uh, but on that same note, Call of Duty has taken quite a controversial standpoint, as well as I'm happy to go back to the Cold War.
We know.
I'm a Cold War enthusiast. I'm part of the
Please,
brigade,
please
everything.
don't mention. Don't 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 mention what you're gonna mention.
I think I might. Because what if
Don't
during
make me
the
pull
Cold
out
War?
tongs.
Because what if because Call of Duty, and I'm just saying this, Call of Duty, Call of Duty has gone to that place before, WarSpirit. And I know that might make your ears just explode.
I know. You're gonna start talking about Ferris wheels, and you're gonna start talking about radiation, and then I'm just gonna end the podcast. And
I am.
I have the power tonight, John.
For the past 15 years, this dingus has been obsessed with Chernobyl.
Dingus, I love it.
Dingus. Well,
It
it was
started in
the most
2011.
like PG name.
No. I like that. That's awesome.
PG that I could come up with. So how many years ago was it? So
I
bought.
started in 2011.
No. How long ago was it that I bought you the metal, the radioactive metal that they gave to
2013.
that I gave? Okay, so I bought him a metal from the.
A liquidator. It's still in my truck. It's hanging right over my visor.
So I got him a medal that they gave to one of the liquidators that they sent into Chernobyl to.
Liquidate the radiation. That's what they did. They were liquidators. They cleaned it.
Okay.
It's a metal. It resembles a blood drop with beta, gamma, and alpha coming off of the blood drop. and it was given to different liquidators that sacrificed themselves, more or less knowingly or unknowingly, to clean this mess up that their government had made.
Gotcha.
But she got me this medal.
Straight from Russia, and it's still radioactive.
Right.
I was
Probably
gonna
on my-
say, how
my
radioactive is this
hairline,
thing?
right?
I don't know. I didn't expect him to keep it in his truck directly next to his head.
That's what I was just gonna say. I'm like, wow, I actually rode in his truck. I actually rode in his truck a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm like, you want to go ride with me, WarSpirit? Nah, bro, I'm good. You know, I'm good.
You know, get some iodine and you'll be fine.
Actually, I do have potassium iodate.
Well, okay. You
Yeah.
might want to take a couple of.
So the difference between iodine and iodate, I am kind of a nerd on some of this stuff too, just for prep. I'm
There's another one.
I'm one of those prepper nerds, by the way, Miss Viking, if you didn't know that. And so the difference between iodine and iodate, your stomach actually accepts iodate a little bit better, so you don't get sick and throw it up.
Well, that's good to know, because I mean, if I'm buying radioactive metals off of eBay, I should probably be up on my.
Yeah, you might want to
my
for
thyroid.
yeah, the sake of your thyroid, you might want to keep up on that.
Well, truth be told, I never actually put my hands on them, and I don't ride in his truck, so I should be
Well,
okay.
you gave them to me. I put them on a bag that you also sent to me.
Well, that was your choice.
Well, you didn't tell me they were radioactive.
What dumb shit? They came from.
I like
No,
to
they
keep the
weapons.
medals right
No,
around my
weapons
crotch.
families just gave them out.
I keep them right here. I will never be able to bear children.
$15, right? Like,
No.
no, you're shitting me.
No, that metal is about $45.
Okay, it's probably not. I think I grazed a Geiger counter over it once or twice, and it didn't read anything.
You mean your ones that you say aren't accurate?
Listen.
I don't know,
This
Ty.
is
I don't
radiation
understand.
for
There's something wrong with them.
American
One rate's like really high even when you turn it on all the time, and one doesn't ever read anything if you're like even you go inside like a nuclear reactor. I don't know.
They tested like 40 nukes just like or in this area alone. We're already screwed.
Which, by the way, young man, I still need to take you out to Gas Buggy since you're a nuke enthusiast.
Your mother has tumors on her thyroid from them testing the atomic bomb.
I know.
So, you know,
Apparently,
just-
I've got tumors on my forehead now.
It's
from
not a
you
tumor.
testing the metal on my.
Those are just.
Your forehead?
Those are just
That weird lump on your neck, you mean?
Well, it would explain the hair loss. I mean, you're balding.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've never noticed before.
All right. Well, when I
You
pull my
poor
hair
thing.
back, right, it's probably the radiation.
It
For fuck's
totally
sake.
is.
Yeah.
You need to get some iodate.
I need to take that thing off the front of my truck.
It is apparently directly next to your head.
It is.
You're gonna grow a twin.
Right.
It's gonna come out talking about Call of Duty.
I need to get a Geiger counter. I'm like genuinely afraid. What like that's a lot of exposure. That's a lot of exposure after all these years to have this radioactive piece of metal swinging in my face in this truck.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's
It
not your
came
fault.
from a liquidator from Chernobyl.
Maybe I should have just been more cautious because I have thought
You
about it.
you see, ladies and gentlemen, these are the conversations that need to be had on Is Today the Day Media.
Right.
Absolutely. Don't buy metals from Chernobyl.
Well-
Do not test it for radioactivity.
Well, don't buy metals from Chernobyl and like hang it by your freaking head. That is actually the lesson that you need to learn. I mean, the only thing worse is if he stuck it under his pillow every night.
Well, or pinned it on his balls.
Well, I kind of went there earlier, but yeah, it's like I could never
You've just got
reproduce.
balls of steel. You've got 3 balls.
Right.
It's probably from the metal.
3 balls or just blanks.
Well, it's 3 balls, or one of them's possibly a tumor. Or, you know.
It's not a tumor.
Not my. It's just the tumor.
It's not a tumor. Get to the chopper. Get down.
Well, I
Sorry.
mean, if you want to talk about, I mean, dystopian futures, nothing really hits the spot like Total Recall.
Oh, I love Total Recall. The
Oh, Total
original.
Recall's the best. Yeah, absolutely.
I
I
watched
forgot that
this.
they remake it. See, I missed that.
Yeah, I watched the remake. It sucked.
I never even watched the remake.
Yeah.
Who's in the remake?
I can't even remember now. That's how forgettable it was. But I remember back in the day watching Total Recall. Actually, like when it came out. I didn't get to watch it in theaters as a kid. Of course, it's rated R, but my mom and dad rented it. Do you remember Bobcat video?
Bobcat Video. I was thinking Bobcat Jones, like the guy from.
So a guy named Bronk in Bloomfield used to own Bobcat Video, and that was actually across the street from where KD Video is. And it's
I'm
actually
having vague memories of Bobcat Video.
it's part of the Baptist church now.
Oh
That
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's totally gone. But the guy, his name was Bronk. This was, man,
So from Bronx.
90s,
The
like
Emperor's I'm thinking the Emperor's New Groove.
basically the same spelling. Basically the same
Nice.
guy. He's the one that owned it. In fact, he was a really interesting individual. He was actually the leader of the time of some weird
Oh my
like
God, no,
militia,
I've just placed it. Yeah, no, Bobcat Video, because we moved out to Bloomfield when I was like 11,
right?
and I totally know where you're talking about because it was next to like it was like a sewing machine.
Yes, 100%. You got it.
Yeah, I think I went there like once or twice, but I totally remember it.
So we always
Did
used to
not
get
know
our.
this about that guy.
Yeah, he was weird. He was weird. During the Clinton administration, he was like the leader of this like weird like militia group, but like not in a. I mean, I am actually all for I guess constitutional militias. This guy was not constitutional. He was just waiting for stuff to go crazy so he could like take over Bloomfield.
Wow, I mean that is some life goals right there.
Yeah. He actually even told my father that if you're not with us, you're against us.
Wow.
Yeah, he was cuckoo.
He's gonna take over Bloomfield.
Yeah,
I mean, that is a dictator if I've ever seen one. My goodness.
that's so
Yeah,
awesome. I don't know
that's
I don't know
some
anybody
life
close to
goals.
my age that remembers Bobcat Video. That's
I do
so cool.
remember Bobcat Video.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like I said, I think I rented. We might have
Oh, I
rented.
remember Bobcat. We got Pikmin once from there. Rented it.
Did we really?
I believe so. I remember playing
You know,
Pikmin.
what I remember was there was a face-off poster or not a poster, but like a standee towards the back, and that's like the most that sticks out for me.
The old man with the Vietnam Navy hat was the owner, if you'll remember. And he sat on a big. Remember the old like 80s style bar stool looking stools with the big armrests?
Yeah.
That's the chair he always sat on in the corner.
Right.
Yeah.
That I have a vague memory of. But
Right next to the dirty videos.
Oh yes.
Yes, the
Yeah,
ones that had the
yeah.
curtains over them.
And that is, see, that's the key. That's exactly what he needed to take over Bloomfield.
Exactly. You got the dirty videos. You got it. You got it in the bag.
Yep, that's. I think you could take over Bloomfield with a handful of dirty videos.
Probably. It is a true mystery to me that the adult video down the road, over by the Jesus is watching you sign, which is famous, is still open.
I actually helped put that up, by the way.
The Jesus is watching you sign?
So at the
Or
time.
the adult video store.
No, the Jesus is watching you sign. I want to be clear. So not the sign itself, but so Gary's Electric, and I'll throw a plug out there for Gary because his son still runs it. They're awesome. Gary's Electric in Bloomfield, they're an electrician service. At the time I worked as a helper for them, and we are the ones that actually donated the lights that went up on the Jesus is watching you sign, so it could be seen at night, and I'm the one that installed them, or
Nice.
rather helped install them.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool. It is a small town. Like I said, it is kind of cool driving around, saying, "Oh, I know who built that. Oh, I know who put that all together."
Well, I
Um,
mean, it is quite the fun claim to flame or claim to fame that
Claim to claim.
Name it and claim it. Sound like some AG people up in here.
it I know the guy who put up the Jesus is watching you sign.
Well, let me be clear. Not the sign, the lights that
Right.
light the
Put
sign.
up the light.
Yeah.
The lights that light the sign.
So that way it can be seen at night when all the dirty old like weirdos want to go buy
Right,
their
well,
pornography.
I don't pay any attention. I only go when it's daytime.
There you go.
To say, yeah.
I actually am very surprised that place is still open, and I kind of wonder if something illegal isn't going on there, because, I mean, honestly, there's this thing called the internet. I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, if you drive through Albuquerque, you'll notice on the right there is another one. But in Albuquerque, it kind of makes sense, right? Like, there's a lot of people in Albuquerque in a small set of area that probably don't have internet. You know, like the impoverished, that sort of thing. But
Hmm.
while they don't have internet, they still want access to, that very large addiction problem. Here, though, it doesn't make sense.
I think there's kind of like a voyeur kind of
Perhaps.
allure to it.
I don't know. Do you want to go to a tourism trip? Is Today the Day Media visits the adult video store to find out what the heck is going on?
Excuse me, sir. This is WarSpirit with this day-to-day myriad. Why do people come into your store? They can take care of themselves at the house. Can you have an answer?
Which, I mean, a lot of people is like, oh, it's a reservation and they don't have internet out there very often. I'm like, well, yeah, but
You know, Miss Viking, I think you might have hit a nerve. Maybe it makes them feel naughty to go there, so it gives them a thrill.
I totally think so. The idea of taboos are one of the biggest allures in just kind of.
Because I think that's why Something Sexy is still open. I mean, you can order any of those quote-unquote toys on Amazon.
Yeah, but at that same time, it's easier to hide in your vehicle like these toys. Like, I mean,
Hide in your vehicle?
Wait. I'm sorry. Are you accusing me of hiding toys in my vehicle?
Well, no.
You're the only one like hiding obscure objects in your vehicle.
Yeah, radioactive ones mostly.
Are you saying you? Never mind. I'm not gonna say what you're doing with the metal.
If you give me a massive purple phallic object, I will see what I can do to put it on the front of my truck.
Oh my god.
That would be hilarious, right?
It's on. Christmas is coming.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing, right? Because so you could like just ping somebody. Like, imagine like going to a red light and someone stopped and you just like inch forward and just boink.
I am getting you the Great American Challenge.
Yeah, they
You'll have
actually
to
sell
look it
that.
up.
Something Sexy sells that.
Oh, how do you know?
I had a roommate who worked there and would say that was actually one of their best-selling items.
How? I'm not. Oh my god. I mean, just why?
Give me the first initial.
What? In, but also not
Not
in.
the inn I'm thinking of.
Not the inn that you're immediately familiar
Okay,
with, but
okay.
like close to the
Okay.
inn. There's a lot of inns in that.
There's a
island.
lot of inns.
Ooh, this is getting
Right.
mysterious.
Right, mysterious. But I don't want to, like I said, you can go meet them if you want. They work there every day, so or almost every day.
I wonder if oh my god, how weird would it be to have regulars? Like, oh hey, we got a new one of those. I'm not gonna say it.
How did the blue one turn out for you?
Right. To say your mic there if you want to hit it up. So another thing, WarSpirit, you may have noticed we have another person on the chat.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at that right now, and yeah, he messaged me to let me know. Patriot76 says, I've loved the original Black Ops, but 2, 3, and 4 were not great. But yes, Valkuda was an awesome mission. I always kind of liked, you'll almost have to take the Coriolis effect into account level myself, but to each his own. I've lost enough hair, no thanks, but I'm down for becoming a ghoul, Patriot76 says.
I'm sorry, that's from
Fallout.
oh God, Fallout. That's it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's awesome, Patriot. I'm a big Fallout fan. The right up to 4. Fallout 76. They can go kill themselves with. Bethesda.
We had
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
technical difficulties for a moment where we were echoing.
I heard that, but I figured you guys would get it figured out.
IT has apparently a microphone that can hear a bug flying in Saudi Arabia right now.
Yeah, I heard the emergency vehicles passed by y'all earlier. Are they looking for you? Are they looking for Miss Viking?
Well, no.
No comment.
I'll never talk.
They heard about her shenanigans with.
You'll never get me, Scappa!
Right.
It wasn't the phallic objects; it was the radioactive objects.
It was the
bringing it
radioactive,
from Chernobyl.
radioactive phallic objects from Chernobyl. But on that same token, I'm excited for Call of Duty Black Ops personally, the new one, Cold War. In the same vein that I was excited for Battlefield 1 because it was both off of rather niche little what I put like kind of like historical events that haven't been popularized in media and other places.
As long as they don't do like bringing up Battlefield 1. Is that the one with for World War 1? Is that what one you're talking about?
Yeah, actually.
As long as they don't bring up an all-black unit that are Nazis, we'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Because I don't remember that happening in history. I've read and I can't find that.
Modern Warfare taking part in being a Call of Duty thing, Treyarch posting this controversial advertisement, "Know Your History," which kind of is kind of in direct contrast with the Black Lives Matter loading screens that cover Modern Warfare from Infinity Ward.
Ooh, yeah, you got a point there, John.
Very odd.
Yeah.
So maybe these two companies are at odds, or maybe they're just trying to pander to two different groups. Like it'd be kind of funny if Infinity Ward designed left Call of Duty and Treyarch starts doing right Call of Duty. That would be very humorous to me if that's the way they start to go with it.
It would be interesting if they do that, and then it also would be interesting if they decide to do some kind of crossover.
Well,
Someone's excited.
The right versus the left. All-out war.
that'd be funny. It's all that would be interesting. It's all Call of Duty not the Nazi punchers versus the MAGA boys. I don't know.
Michelle Lujan Grisham could be up there with her pussy hat.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember she was part of that.
Mhm.
Updates on that. Since we're a little bit on that time scale, we have a few moments left.
Yeah, and we're pretty much done. So whatever you want to discuss, we're good.
What I was about to say because in your area, how is the restrictions compared to this area from what you can tell with COVID?
Oh, me. Well,
Where you go? Oh, can we
Sorry.
record that? Just kidding.
technical difficulties.
Yeah,
Sorry. So I'll straight up say I'm from Florida, and we have a wonderful Republican governor, and we've been sans lockdown for a while now. And really, the only difference you'll find where we're at is that most people wear face masks into the store. Nothing's really closed down. Everything goes on as normal. And compared to here, it's a little it's a bit weird. especially being back. And, the fact that, I mean, restaurants are basically being forced to operate outside. Um, and just kind of this weird general feel of that you have a Nazi for a governor. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm sure that's an unpopular opinion in certain parts of New Mexico, but
Not here, it's not.
well, yeah, I know in the north, genuinely it's not. But if anybody was tuning in from, I don't know, Albuquerque or Santa Fe,
Right.
you are being manipulated by a lunatic.
And let's put it this way, it's not like this everywhere, which I know is a big surprise for New Mexicans because they think the whole world is like this.
Genuinely, that
Yeah.
is something I've come across here, is that I end up arguing with people who are here that this is not as good, nor is it as bad as it gets,
Right. Yeah.
because it is better and worse in other places.
Right. Well, no, you don't understand. People in Farmington are just the biggest assholes, and they're also the worst drivers, and they're also
But we
the
have the best food.
right.
Amen.
Okay? Now, I will agree you have the best green chili anywhere, and it is genuinely hard to find in other states, but it is slowly trickling out. But it is not the best, nor is it the worst here. But in this particular juncture, y'all are being lorded over by an absolute sycophantic psychopath who has no other objective than to torture the hell out of you until you vote her out, because that's the only solution I can tell you that you've got.
Right, and we got 2 more years of it.
Yeah, and that is genuinely unfortunate, and I think that she is punishing the people who didn't vote for her as a governor.
Oh yeah, she has numerous times taken us and Lee County and singled us out.
Right. Especially, and the whole COVID thing has brought this huge thing to light. Like,
Well, it's unfortunately given her just it's just given her the leeway to do what she wants to do, because honestly, at any other time of peace or non-national emergency, she couldn't do the things that she's done. There's no way in hell at any other point in time could she withdraw business licenses simply because they went against something she said.
Right.
right.
And
Yeah.
because she's now been given the leeway to do that, oh my God, I cannot believe the people who would vote for this. And you know where I'm at, obviously it's Florida, and everybody's saying it's the epicenter, and it's absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
What we have is well, not infinite, but several numbers of people who've been said to be COVID deaths that are fake. We've had people die from car wrecks that have been counted as COVID deaths.
Right.
And that's absolute bullshit. They're not COVID deaths. They may have had COVID in the past, they may have the antibodies from it, but those can last up to 3 months. So the simple fact is that when this is over, what's going to happen in places like this is that your economy is going to be absolutely destroyed. And people are going to leave in droves because they have no option, because the economy is going to be destroyed. And they're going to leave to places like Florida or Texas that opened up and their economies have bounced back, and there's work, and that's the simple end of it. So in 2 years, I hope that the people remember this, because that's what's going to happen.
Well, the interview though that I saw with Joe Biden with Cardi B said that Joe was going to fix everything.
So
did you know that Cardi B interviewed Joe Biden,
right.
their Miss Viking?
Yeah.
That's the one.
WarSpirit informed me of this today.
I was
driving.
unaware of this particular interview.
Yeah. So
yes.
WarSpirit when he said, and I just wanted to go into this because I almost stopped the car because I was driving.
He's all no effing way. I was like, yes. I'm not messing with you.
Yeah, I said no effing
Well,
way.
I'm sorry. That's all the DNC has been. Is it's been a massive circle jerk for all of the Democrats trying to prop themselves up, saying how wonderful they are and how emotional and just supportive they
Yep.
are, and how they're going to get this country back to where it was, which I'm wondering is back to where it was like 1920s, like
Right.
Great Depression, because that's
Well,
exactly where they're leading us with all
it's
of this
funny that you should
lockdown
mention.
bullshit.
It's funny that you should mention that, Miss Viking, because I watched part of the highlights of their national convention, and that was like last night, and they start showing. Oh yeah, it was very comical part of it, and then also made you want to puke. But they started showing like the old bus, like the video like footage of the bus like that Rosa Parks rode in, and all this
Was
stuff.
that wait. That was when the Democrat Party was fighting for segregation, right?
Oh
Right.
well, see the Democrat Party has always been the uh, the party for racism. Robert KKK Byrd, in fact, was one of Joe Biden's best buddies, and he was a grand wizard in the KKK.
Well, I can tell you right now, poor spirit, don't get it twisted. If you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black.
Shh, what are you talking about, man?
Hey,
I
my
am
friend
Joe
Wyatt will have
Biden's
you know.
husband.
Oh yes, I do remember that. Yes, you have yourself a African American boyfriend. But if he doesn't vote
Wait,
for
so
Biden,
is he a gap then? Geriatric?
I'm sorry, what? You cut out.
a geriatric
I
attracted
said you're a
person.
gap, so you're a geriatric attracted person.
Yeah, I tend that way.
Right. Oh, what was that quote? I'm
I
not even
mean,
gonna worry
When
about
I
it.
sniff their hair, though, their hair comes out and into my nose.
that happens with toupees.
That was foul.
If you got really good toupee glue's super important. I mean,
So I looked up. I was curious because I kind of looked up Cardi B today. I didn't even know who she was or like what she was. And so unfortunately, I listened to some music that one of my coworkers told me, and she knew that I didn't know who this lady was. And so she had me listen to a song called WAP. Um,
oh, that's the new one. See, I haven't heard that one.
it's really
Well, it's an
bad.
abbreviation. W stands for wet, A stands for ass, and P stands for well. Think about it. So,
Exactly. Gotta have a mop to clean it up. That's some of the lyrics.
Wow.
IT just started cracking. We got the whole crew here tonight. That's
Oh,
wonderful.
I
Wow.
just, I don't, I was like,
That
wow.
sounds like I need some. No, I mean I'm gonna need like some plastic baggies, a shower curtain, hopefully some plastic wrap, and at the very least a condom, because that just sounds like an STD walking.
It does, yes.
Well, and I think it was so funny. It's like not only, and this kind of like, so like when you told me that Cardi B interviewed Joe Biden, I'm like, it's not a joke enough already that Joe Biden is the nominee.
He
You know,
doesn't work for you.
I understand.
Don't get it twisted.
But it was already just wow,
I ain't gonna
right?
twist nothing near Joe
This was the
Biden or Cardi
nominee,
B.
right? It blew me away. Yeah, already that Joe Biden, like we joked about it, it's like there's no way he's gonna get the nominee. He got the nominee. Funny. I guess we also have some new comments where Spirit if you want to look at them. But my point being was, oh my gosh, I was like, this entire country, if it's not ran by a bunch of pedophiles, it's definitely ran by a bunch of clowns that are taking the piss out of us. Like, because that's why I said no effing way. I was like, that's who they had interview Joe Biden, and then you had Bill Clinton speaking at the Democratic, like with everything going on with Pizzagate and everything, you had Bill Clinton come out, the head figure of Epstein and everything else, the Ep, Bill Clinton himself come out and speak. It's like who else is gonna show up? Jared from Subway.
Right. Well,
You know, like
it's like I was telling you earlier, John. It reminds me of the cartoon Tangled, where Flynn Rider is like he's looking at his wanted posters and they can't ever get his nose right, and he's like, oh, they can't ever get my nose right, and then they end up at that bar. And they look at it, and then he's like, his nose is like 3 inches long, and he's all, oh, now they're just being mean. It's like
right.
they're
Well,
just
that's what I mean.
punking us.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like they're punking us. Like they're punking the entire country. And it's like it would be so funny if it wasn't so damn serious. Like, the fate of the country lays within, these people's hands more or less. Also, I think more in the governor's hands, but of every individual state. But these representatives of an entire nation, could you imagine Joe Biden like in foreign affairs, like having meetings with like, dare I say, Merkel from Germany? That
right.
would be hilarious. I'd actually like to see that. If we could have him president for a day just to go do negotiations with Germany, I think that'd be quite hilarious. Because I don't know if
Well,
Merkel would quite appreciate having this old horny uh, political official sniffing on her hair and all that business.
Vandersniff.
I mean, desperation.
Right. It doesn't really go hand in hand, does it?
Well, that's why I actually don't think there's going to be any kind of debate at all. They're going to have some kind of excuse because there is no way he can even keep up a regular conversation with people. How is he going to debate Donald Trump?
It is odd. It's one of those mysteries. And again, that's why I'm like, somebody's punking us right now.
Maybe they'll have Cardi B in his place.
Oh,
So I looked
like,
up
everybody
like
please
what her
rise
little
for our new
noise.
American anthem.
I looked up what her little noise meant because I was very confused. Because she does that like in everything.
It has a meaning.
It does. It does.
Oh,
So in like
that's a noise.
the thug culture, whatever, the skrrt is supposed to be like a sound effect of like screeching tires, because
You mean
because
skirt? Like skirt skirt?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's supposed to be. You're pulling away. So basically, it's
I've heard
based
that.
off of felonies.
Well, I've heard skirt skirt, but I've never heard skirt. Like, is that how she says it? I wouldn't know.
More or less, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not personally. I may keep radioactive things next to my head, but that causes me less head trauma.
Trust me, other than for the show, I wouldn't have been looking up Cardi B. She's not really in my wheelhouse.
Right. All right. Well, we've got a few moments left, and want to go
So
ahead and I guess start wrapping it up, or
let me tell you,
ahead.
because I was waiting for that. Let me tell you what Patrick76 wrote here. He says, I have a friend who works in the medical field, and they told me they used a sterile COVID test just for fun, and they sent it off, and it came back positive. And I've heard other people saying that on the net before, and I've heard other nurses that I actually know in person say that they did the same thing, and it happened. So I'm not surprised because from looking at studies and stuff that I've actually been involved with personally, um, the test is actually only 40% accurate, believe it or not.
it sounds to me like I need to send a test in so I can get off of work for 2 weeks. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I have been tested, and fortunately, unfortunately, depends on, I guess, the what side of the rainbow you look on there. I was COVID free.
Right. And again, that's just kind of what I'm looking at. Like the virus just seems, while there's no doubt in my mind that it's an actual virus, I've dealt with people that actually had the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've had the virus.
yeah, but it never struck me as something like they shut down the economy over this. Like everybody that I've met with the virus, it was always like kind of like a yeah. Anyway, so I was talking about. Oh yeah. Anyways,
Well, no,
you
it
know.
sucked. genuinely, when I had it, it was a tickle that you couldn't get rid of and nothing helped, but it wasn't the end of the world. It was annoying,
Right.
but that was about it.
You didn't feel like you was gonna die.
Right. Yeah, you didn't feel like the song by Fish back in the '60s. Whoopee, we're all gonna die. Remember that? Maybe not. Maybe I'm too
No,
much
no,
of a
that
music
one's
buff.
outside of my scope.
Well, WarSpirit's a movie buff. I'm a music buff, and IT's also a music buff, as far as I understand.
Yeah, I'm very sad sometimes, Miss Viking, because I'll make a movie reference and it goes right over their head, and I have to cry a little bit inside.
Well, you know what's
You
funny
know,
is that this guy had no idea what Soylent Green as People was from, so.
Well, we are obscure people. I mean, genuinely, some of
Truly.
the stuff that we make references to.
I mean, could you imagine if I was like, "What do you mean there's no wild boar?" Like people would be like, "What?" You know. And if anybody does get that, cheers to you. But
Well, they must be from a different country. That
yeah,
would be
more
my
than
guess.
likely. I did speak to a Catholic a while back, and I made mention to Asterix and Obelix. Gave it away as a secret. But they were like, "You're probably the only American I've ever met."
Yes, nice. That's great.
Yeah, I've just recently looked into that, but yeah, I make obscure references like this is the AK-47 assault rifle, and it makes a very distinctive sound when fired at you. So remember it. And that's still a movie you need to watch, John.
Suck a beer. Yeah, that would be a good one to watch.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Yeah.
Heartbreak Ridge, Clint Eastwood.
Oh, yeah. You know, my grandfather watched a lot of Clint Eastwood, and it was one of those things that it just kind of shied away from.
Right. I'm convinced that in the film Mule that came out with Clint Eastwood recently, that he's actually gone senile and that he has no idea where he is.
I
I'm
think
fairly certain he doesn't even know he's in a film.
Right.
I swear they just filmed him driving a truck.
I think they were actually gonna have somebody else, and he like wandered on. He's like, "Hey, it's Clint Eastwood. Let's use him."
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because the first starting scene, I felt bad. I was like, somebody get this guy like a bottle of old people's milk and like have him sit down for a few minutes.
Whoa, old people milk.
Yeah, what's it called? Ensure? That's more of what I was going.
Okay, that's better than what I was thinking.
Is that you, Joe Biden? Please
I was
do
gonna
not give me
say,
old people milk.
hey, you talking about old people milk there, John? I come in just at the right conversation. This is Bill Clinton. How you doing?
Really
Hi.
activates the adrenochrome.
Yeah, it does. It does. You know, Miss Viking, the adrenochrome, it's just some good stuff. It just gives you a rush. Oh, you know what I'm saying? It almost is as good a rush as being in the Oval Office and get. Oh, never mind. Monica.
Yeah. We actually had a phone call last time. I'll have to actually get actual Bill Clinton on again.
Yeah, we'll have to get him on, and you know, have him talk about maybe what he like the DNC and how that convention and stuff went. You know, I know I talked to him on the phone a few days ago, and he was very excited about the Netflix special coming up.
We're only missing like just a few other awesome characters.
Well, I don't know. The fact that they came out with a picture of him being massaged by one of Epstein's
Yes.
trafficked girls the exact same day he was due to speak at the DNC.
So that was the same young lady that also put Bill Richardson on the island the same day, by the way.
Oh.
That she claims gave him a handy.
Which is yeah, is what it is.
I'm being as PG as I can, but telling the truth.
Yeah. So also, what was it? You know, that's as I was kind of saying. It's like, so you had Joe Biden, Bill Clinton,
And Virginia Roberts.
Who else is missing? Yeah, you know, who else is missing?
That was the poor young lady that was abused.
Gary, John Gain, whatever, John G. Gacy.
Mm-hmm.
Gacy, John Wayne Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy.
Missing, I don't know
Isn't
these.
that the serial killer?
That's the. I was gonna say that was a serial killer, dude.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like that's what I'm getting at. It's like you had Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, who
Oh,
else, right?
I
Jerry
thought
from
okay.
Subway, John Wayne Gacy, all these.
Apparently, Bill Murray's on
Jeffrey
the flight
Dahmer.
list, which that like crushes my soul.
Right. Well, we can. Again, if by any means a
I
celebrity.
loved Bill Murray, man.
If you're on the list and everybody knows you are, and you're not speaking out to defend yourself, what the hell are you doing?
Well, and see, he hasn't come out and said anything. That's the issue I have right now with Bill Murray is, if you're not saying something, you probably did something.
It's like I expect Tom Hanks wakes up in the morning to see Bill Murray moving in next to him.
Yeah. Hey, Tom. Just moved into Greece.
Yeah. Sure is nice, huh, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah. We should go see about that island sometime.
Yeah.
But anyways, it is a sad world, but hopefully through this adversity that we're facing, that we find a lot of unity. We find a lot of
I hope we find a lot more commonality than
Yeah.
we have in the past, because it's become so divided when in all actuality we're not as divided as it seems.
Right.
There is a lot of common ground, and I don't think they want us to find it, because then that means we stop fighting each other and we actually look to the problems and we actually begin fixing things versus just screaming at each other that everyone else is at fault.
Right.
And that's really just maturing in time too. And I do see that happening because, like I said, I used to, be quite into the whole Sovietistic things. Like I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. But as I matured through adversity and other things, I was like, I kind of like capitalism. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who maybe in their younger years are like, yeah, I was kind of part of Antifa, but it's kind of cringe. Like their edgy 14-year-old phase. You know what I mean?
Well,
And a lot of them won't.
going back again, like I said earlier, and we're gonna have to have my former boss on to talk about the '60s because he lived it, and the same kind of stuff was going on during the Vietnam era of the protests and stuff, and these kids that were protesting the war and different stuff. I was listening actually to a podcast with Jocko Willink a few days ago, and there was a gentleman on there that was talking about it, that he grew up in that era, and it was kind of funny. He's like, yeah, I went to one of the protests, and Jocko was like, really? He's all, yeah, but we were just told that we got out of school if we decided to go protest. So I was like, well, get out of science class? I'm there.
Right. Well, how often have we seen that? Remember that shooting where they were like, you get a few hours off of school if you go say that guns are bad for about 2 hours.
Right.
You remember that?
No, yeah, I do.
Like, because it was what was that? I don't even remember. I just remember his name was like Pork or something like that. Hog.
Hog. Yeah, Tension Hog.
Yeah, Attention Hog.
Or David Hogg is
like,
what it is, but
David Hogg. Yeah, he was out there doing all that, and it was like all the children are welcome to stand and protest and get a few hours out of school. So
you got
it's again, it's kind of like a worthless protest because most of these kids don't give a damn. They just are like, yeah, let's go walk outside.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? No, I remember that. But anyways, it is 11:01 p.m.
Yes.
So, if you want to lead us out in prayer, WarSpirit, or if you have anything else to add.
No, yeah, I'll do that. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Father God, and we just thank you, Lord, for the ability that we have, Lord, with with the technology that you've allowed us to have, and the First Amendment to be able to do this, Lord, for us just simple people to be able to have a news podcast, Lord, and we're a news group now, and we thank you for that, Lord. And Lord, I thank you for our guest that we had on today, and I pray that you would just bless her, Lord, and her family, Lord, immensely. And I pray, Lord, that as we go throughout our weekends, that we would just be able to enjoy each other's company, our families, Lord, and that you would just help us to give us some release from some of this, Lord, because it seems like we get bombarded with it day after day, Lord, and it can be very tiring. So, Lord, I pray that you would give us rest this weekend, and that also, Lord, we pray for our nation right now, Lord. Lord, we pray that you would bring us together, Lord, and that we would see, our eyes would all be open to the true enemy, and that we would unite against that, and it would bring us closer. We ask for all this in your precious holy name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Good night.